So this is the Sherburne Business Association's interview of J.P. Parnas, but in the process of finding J.P. Parnas behind the Clark Building in the middle of downtown Sherburne, guess what else we found? Now, a lot of people find that Sherburne is a suburban bedroom community for Boston, but we seem to think there are other uses for Sherburne besides just a bedroom community. Look what we found here in the middle of Sherburne. We found an old fire truck, ladder number 2 here in Sherburne. And it's parked in the barn, ladder 2 parked in a barn right here in the middle of Sherburne. And guess what else we found in Sherburne? We'll show you next. So guess what else we found in the same place here in the middle of Sherburne? We found at least 4 pigs here in the same property, and over here we have some chickens that are growing over here. So right here we have a horse farm and riding stables down here below us, and also we have J.P. Parnas, so let's go see him. So we have found J.P. Parnas. His operation is a bit behind the Clark Building. If you come in to the side of the Clark Building and drive up and around in the back, past the ladder truck, past the chickens, past the pigs, and work your way just a little bit past there on this road that we're on right here, you'll find J.P. Parnas and his woodworking and fine furniture operation here in Sherburne. So let's go see J.P. and see what he's up to in his operation. So we're inside of J.P. Parnas Woodworking Shop, and we are here experiencing some of the work that he has already completed. Very beautiful table here and some other work. We're going to meet him and we're going to talk with him and find out how he makes such fine pieces. So J.P., good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Hi Jim, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Congratulations on such beautiful work.
Well, thank you.
This is just gorgeous.
Thank you.
So tell us what you do and why this is here and how you do it. Start with maybe what you do.
This table was actually part of a set of 3 that I worked on, and they were kind of inspired by a single piece of wood that I bought one day a long time ago, which now makes up the tops of 3 of pieces.
This piece and this piece and...
Nope, these 2 tables and this large table down here.
Okay.
You know, it's a style of tables that I've been kind of fascinated with, and I just wanted to try to make them. So.
And what style would you call this? A J.P. Parnas style, or is this?
Well, I can't claim that, but it's based on the historic examples of a Pembroke table. I kind of took some liberties with the top and made it more curved, but the decoration, particularly in the shape of the legs and the curve of the front of the drawer and so on, are all historic.
And so when you make something like this, you make this for spec? You make this for somebody's order? How do you work?
These in particular happen to be on spec. Just wanted to make them, and I hope to try to sell them someday. But you know, I can also make them on commission too.
And how much of your work is commission versus you enjoy making a piece because it's in your brain?
Well, usually majority is commission. I happen to have squeezed in a little extra time to make some of these other pieces recently. So.
Squeezing in some time, I see you're making some pieces over here of something. Tell us about what you have work in process over here.
Yep.
What's happening with
well, this is again a historical example of in this case it's a shaker nightstand, a candle stand, and it's kind of a neat simple process because you're turning a simple column, and then there's really just 3 legs and a top. But put together, it's a really elegant piece.
And there are ways of joining things under here. Can you...
Well, the most interesting part is actually the bottom, and these are dovetailed in, and they slide up inside and lock in there.
And no nails to lock that?
No, it's all just glued in, and it's carefully fit, so it's a really nice tight fit.
And how would you do shelves and corners and things like that? Are there different ways of putting 2 pieces together?
Yep. Well, this is an example of a sliding dovetail, what's called. You know, the more typical example of a dovetail is usually found in a drawer, like in this one, for instance, holding the box together, essentially. Also on the top of that cabinet. And then, you know, the other typical joint is a mortise and tenon. And I get to have a sample of it here somewhere. where you're cutting a tenon, which is the part that sticks out, and then you're cutting a hole called the mortise, which fits exactly. And again, it's done in such a way that it's an exact fit. So
Yeah, it looks like a lot of work to make that an exact fit.
It's very precise work, let's put it that way. You have a system that can do it pretty quickly, but very precisely. So there's no nails involved.
But I don't see anything in that piece over there. I don't see anything like what you've shown us so far.
Well, this piece is a modern example, I guess. It's a sample of a tabletop I'm doing out of walnut plywood. In this case, it's a rather complex joint in order to have a seamless edge here. So it's a mitered joint, but it's also squared off in the middle in order to... It helps with the precision of it, and it also gives many more glue surfaces, so it's a nice strong joint. So this can make, you know, a thicker tabletop out of plywood.
And is this strong enough to work with, for instance, pulling a table, a drawer here in and out? Is it strong enough to withstand pulling?
Oh, absolutely. This is incredibly strong. Yeah, you couldn't pull this apart. So,
Wait,
no.
Go ahead. That's okay. That's okay. Can you talk about, show us some of the tools that you use, the hand tools that you use to...
Sure. No, I don't use any hand tools on plywood, but we'll put that aside.
Okay.
Some of the main, you know, some of the most obvious tools are hand plane, used for flattening surfaces by hand. Some flat chisels are used often to to get that last tiny bit of perfect fit. So you're actually, in this case, this is actually getting carved out by hand.
But some of it will be by machine, and the final work is then by a chisel.
In some cases, correct. Yes. Right.
Okay.
Right. And then various curved carving tools. In some cases, for doing actually the curve part of that to match this curve. And also for doing more complex carving, like the top of this guy. It's called the pie crust.
So you would have used what to do that?
A combination of many of these curved carving chisels.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very good. Now, can you talk about the equipment you have in your shop and some of the age of it and what you've done with that? Let's go look at that.
Okay.
So JP, you've got a number of very interesting pieces of equipment, old, shall we say, ancient, shall we say, very functional pieces of equipment in here. Can you...
All of the above.
We're standing in front of what?
This is a bandsaw from, I think, 1911, so it's a good 100 years old. The great thing about it is it's all cast iron and extremely heavy, and it doesn't move.
So I couldn't... Yeah, I can move, but it's flywheel.
The flywheel goes very fast. But the best thing about it is its size, and that I can cut a piece of wood almost 18 inches in height.
And so why do you need this? What would you do with this bandsaw?
The best use for it, it's not all that precise, but the best use for it is to be able to cut a board, say, like so, right in the middle and cut it in half, and I'll get two pieces whose grain exactly matches. I can flip them over and glue them together and get a piece that's bigger, because you can't buy wood that much bigger anymore. So.
And you're cutting it like that?
No, you're cutting it actually up on end.
Whoa, now I'm
splitting it down the middle.
I would go about like that, about all the whole way down.
It takes some getting used to. Yeah, every bandsaw has a certain angle at which, when you're pushing it through, it goes pretty straight.
So you've got to get some experience in using this guy.
Yeah, this is a
1911.
1911.
You value this? Is this a beauty?
Oh yeah, it's a classic, classic machine. Absolutely, yeah.
So what else do you have over here? Can you show us some more of your equipment?
Sure.
So JP, what are we looking at here, please?
This is what's called a jointer. So it puts a flat edge on one face of a board. This is another very old one. It's from 1919, I think, or something in that. Again, you know, it's solid.
Looks like it weighs a ton also.
I think it literally does, yeah.
Wow. And how do you get something like this repaired? Does it ever break?
I got to do it myself. I know some machinists who can make metal parts for me if I need them. So.
Wow. And then what do you have back over on this side?
This is not quite as old, but it's all pretty old. I think it's from the 40s. It's called a planer, and what you're doing is surfacing the other side of the board to make them two parallel faces. So this is all for rough milling wood to get it to be able to make furniture.
And then what do you do with, after you finish with here, where do you take it in your process?
Typically from this point, typically from this point, you're cutting rough wood and then you let it sit for a day in order to move a little bit, and then you go through the process one more time, taking off just enough to make it completely flat. And then from there you're going to the table saws and other machinery where you're cutting more precisely down to the actual finished dimensions.
Wow, it's amazing stuff. Very good, thank you. So JP, once you finish the work over on the big boys, then you come over on this side of your shop and you spend time, this is a beautiful piece.
Well, thank you.
You spend time creating something like this from what you've done over
yeah,
there. Can you take us through?
That's the detailed handwork. That particular piece has a lot of what's called stringing inlay. And
that's this.
Those white lines are actually made from stringing, which is actually little tiny strips of veneer that are cut on the table saw, and then a number of different tools are used to actually gouge in a groove the exact same width of that.
Wow, that's pretty precise work, sounds like.
It is, yeah. And
you're hair raising when you're doing that kind of?
You know, it's actually quite concentrated and focused and can be kind of zen-like.
It's beautiful work. And then how do you finish this off once you finish putting?
Then these are still sticking out, and you're paring them down with a chisel, and then you eventually, sand it smooth, and in this case it has an oil-based finish on there that's hand rubbed. And
so what do you like best of all the processes in making your furniture? This or the rough work?
What I love best is that you can go from this really heavy rough work down to this really fine work. That you can do both, and it uses very different parts of your brain and different parts of your body.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about 6 years now.
What did you do before this?
I've been an architect, and I'm still an architect, but trying to make this more of a full-time thing.
And so how do we get a hold of you? And
well, I have a website, jpparnaswoodworking.com, and
JPPARNAS Woodworking, all one word?
Correct, yep.
.com.
Yep, and I've been at the farmer's market in Natick and a couple different craft shows around, and try to get myself out there.
And your phone number?
617-697-3095.
617?
697.
697.
3095.
3095. That's terrific. Well, JP, appreciate your helping us understand this, and thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thank you.